If you ask me the question, who am I will probably tell you I'm a Jew who happens to have a Belgian passport. I define myself as a Jew first and then a Belgian secondly. People my age who were born in the States, well, they were born in the 40s and their parents probably had an experience of Germany, of Europe, and they have a memory. They heard the stories of their parents. But when you go down 2 or 3 generations of people living here, the feeling of fear, the feeling of survival, the feeling of looking around yourself, is it time to go? Is it time to pack my things, to pack my family and go? This feeling doesn't exist anymore. Like it doesn't exist for my son. It doesn't exist for my grandson anymore. It exists to me because I heard my parents talk about that. They were living that kind of life and I got the same feeling. My parents arrived in Belgium when they were both something like 2 or 3 weeks old. Their parents were coming from Poland, and like many Jews of the Eastern countries, they went to Antwerp to take a boat and go to America. But as they didn't have the paperwork or the money to do that, then they were stuck in Antwerp, and that's why there are so big Jewish communities in the ports alongside the Atlantic. It's because they are all people stuck either without the proper paperwork or lack of money. When the war came, in 1940, the Germans came into Belgium around 41, and a bunch of people left Belgium to France. And my parents and my grandmother were on the road at that time. They arrived in France, and so now we are in 41. My sister is born, and then the Germans enter into France. So my parents kept going down south, and in 1943 they were already in the area of Nice, so alongside the Côte d'Azur, which was still the free zone. When the Germans arrived at that time, then they joined the resistance. And now we are around 1942, and my mother realized that she's pregnant, and that was not exactly Planned Parenthood, I guess, at that time. And so they are both in the resistance, so there are strict rules which says that couples can't be together, they have to be separate. So now she's pregnant, she's going to deliver, and she is somewhere up in the mountains in a secret hiding. So she's got to go to the maternity to deliver. So she gets down from the mountains, she arrives on the main road, to take the bus to go to the maternity, and at that time buses were booked weeks in advance. So she's there in the middle of the aisle holding the hand, so in the middle, and the bus is going up. And at some point a guy stands up and says, "Please sit down." And she says, "That's a gentleman." So she sit down, and then she realized that she was sitting on the back tire. So she was there going like that all the way up to the maternity. And so instead of me being born anytime in January 1944, I was born on December 29th. I guess that the bus ride had something to do with that. In those days, Jews had false paper, had false documents. It's not exactly convenient to be called Yankelevich when the Germans are all over the place, and not that my parents were Yankelevich, but Kupfermunz is close enough in terms. So, so I don't even know what last name my father had, but his war name was Julien. And my mother, her war name was Nicole Dunois. She had a false paper as a single woman, Nicole Dunois. And so when I was born, from a single mother, and my name was registered as Dunois. So when the war was over, then my parents went back to Belgium, and so when I got to be 5 or 6 years old, in those days to change name, because my parents had to go through a long procedure for me to reclaim my own name, their name. And it took years for that to be settled, and I was already 6 years old. I was in first grade, and I was still with my official name, Dunois. So the teacher did call my mother, and she would say, you should bring your kid to a ear doctor, because he doesn't hear properly. And my mother says, why is that? Well, I called him and he doesn't respond. And I had no clue that my name was Dunois. I knew myself as André Kupfermunz. And so when the teacher was calling me, there was no response about that. I discovered the term hidden child when I was already maybe 45 years old. Never heard it before. Nobody talked about that, what happened during that period, and I didn't ask any question. It was my parents in 1942, and she was pregnant of me. So I'm on the picture too. You won't see me, I promise you. To protect me, my parents decided that it would be better for me to be baptized. And so they arranged with a priest to have a ceremony or a baptism taking place. And of course I needed godparents, so they asked their friends, a couple of friends of them who were both Jewish, to be my godparents, and they agreed to do that. And so there was a ceremony where I was baptized. And over the years, so my godparents remained. They were both from Brussels. So after the war, they went back to Belgium, and so their relationship with my parents kept going on. And so I had a godmother who years after years after years would invite me on my birthday, and then she would offer me a book. In the book there would be the equivalent of $20, which was big money at that time, I can tell you that. And then she would make me latkes, and that was my birthday present until the moment I was 18 years old. And at that time I told her, now I'm getting old enough, and thank you very much for the money, but I can take care of myself. And she would say, come on, Andre, just take the money, and that's just fine. That was, and so I received the money until the moment she died. Michel and I, we are preparing a trip to go to Europe. How about we visit, and then we have a tour of this place where I was hidden. I knew the name, never had any idea where it was. So we arranged of a time, and finally we arrive in the middle of the night, and we kept asking him, so what's the address? And you say, well, you arrive on the main road, there you turn right, and then you turn left, and then there is a broken tree there, you turn left again, and then you go straight, and you arrive at the house. And until the moment we got so upset that we said, but can we get the address, please? Well, there is no address. It's such a small village that there was no street name, there was no number on the houses. He took us on around the town and around the area, and we never found the house where I was hidden. We never found it. He never brought us there. He said he didn't remember, he couldn't remember, he had asked questions, nobody knew. So there remained some kind of mystery around this thing, because at 10 years old, it's difficult to imagine that he wouldn't remember and that the people in town wouldn't remember.